I'd just like to say, I'd like to just start off by saying that the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People is really an instrument that's designed to basically help us decolonize ourselves as Indigenous peoples. And I just want to identify what colonization means to me here in Canada. Colonization means, first of all, the dispossession of us of our lands. And if you add up all the Indian reserves in Canada, we have 0.2% of the land in Canada. 0.2. So as much as we say this is our land and our territory, the federal and provincial governments don't agree with us. Because when this country was founded in 1867, the British North America Act was imposed from the Imperial Parliament of Great Britain and was the first constitution of this country. And they mutually and exclusively divided up all ownership and all jurisdiction to all of our territories between the federal and provincial governments. And that's what dispossession is. That's how come they call it federal crown land. It belongs to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. That's what sovereignty means when a white man talks about sovereignty. It's not like the United States where it's a republic and they don't have a queen. They fought against her, the king way back when they became independent. Sovereignty is treated, the word is a little different. It's when they talk about the domestic sovereignty, the Indian nations down there in the different states are sovereign entities, and so is the federal government, a little different. But sovereignty up here in Canada means the queen. And the first step Britain took when it colonized the world was to dispossess the people of their land. And they do it through British law because they want to do it legally. They want to steal your land legally under the colonial doctrines of discovery, which is a racist doctrine that says that white man's property rights are superior to indigenous property rights. That's how come a white queen can send out a crazy sailor and he can claim our land just because he's white. And that's it. And that's wrong. Dispossession is what colonization is. And this is what this UN declaration addresses a bit, because if you can't get justice inside a colonial country, then you need to get justice outside the colonial country, and that's what the international declaration is about. Anyways, so you need to read this declaration in that context. So the thing is that the second element of colonization is dependency. Because when you steal a man's land, 99.8%, you automatically make them dependent on you. And that's the Department of Indian Affairs. That's the Indian Reserve System. That's the Indian Residential School System. All of those different systems that they use, the dependency part, especially the Department of Indian Affairs. I was an elected chief. My dad was an elected chief, and I know what it's like to be an elected chief as a tribal chairman, all these different things. So I know that a lot of the money that's being spent by the Department of Indian Affairs is for health programs and for social welfare and for housing and all these different things that you are stuck with as a chief, as a 0.2% chief, if you're a chief, to try to come up with a solution. And you can't find a solution on 0.2. There's no way on God's green earth that you can do it. Very few communities can actually do that. And Robert Louis back there, he's from West Bank, they're doing fairly successful on the 0.2, but not the same as my reserve in Scotland. There's a few others like Squamish in British Columbia, like Kamloops, like Musqueam. A few of them that are close to urban centers and can plug into the urban economy and become quite independent. But the vast majority of the 620 Indian bands across the country aren't that close, and they really have difficult times. And you need to really change that. So dependency is really one of the big problems that we're struggling with. And the third one in colonization is oppression. Because as soon as you steal somebody's land, as soon as you make them independent, the first thing you create is the urge for them to be independent, and they will fight back. They'll resist against the dependency. They'll resist against their land being stolen, and so they will send in the RCMP, you know. The other day, for instance, Wolverine from Gustafson Lake, he's getting old, he's bedridden now. Anyways, he called for all the young activists in British Columbia to get together, so they came down to our reserve in near Kamloops, and we had a meeting. But there were people from the LNG, from you know, from Unistoten, and a number of other camps that came down to visit him. And these people are in the front lines of climate change and front lines of resistance. Because that's how you get your rights recognized, is you have to stand there and you have to be ready to go down swinging with it, because the RCMP are going to show up. They are going to fight you for it. And if you really want to win, we're going to have to stand up to them clean across the country. And if we do stand up against them clean across the country, I know that we are going to be able to win. There's no question about it. So it's important that we understand that. I think one of the things you should understand about the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People is there are about around 12 sections in the document that actually refer to probably global rights issues, global climate change issues, I should say. And these are in relationship to the land, our relationship to the land, and our rights as Indigenous people to be able to continue that relationship to the land. And like, it talks about ceremony, and it talks about traditions, it talks about our links to our medicines and different things like that, that are the essence of what our relationship is. And that's something that the non-native people and the capitalist system really don't have. You know, our relationship is the fact that we're, like was said among some people, our relatives are the moose and the deer and the trees and the earth itself and the water. And those are our relatives. And we treat them like relatives. That's not how the white man treats the land. The white man looks at the land as a natural resource that you use to exploit, and that you make money and profit off of it. And that's how you look at it. And it's really what they're looking for is to liquefy that land from earth into gold into money. And that's how they see it. And they don't care that they destroy the environment in that whole process. They don't care at all. The real second thought here in this country is Indigenous people. And we've been struggling against that. A lot of the legal cases in British Columbia have to do with us protecting Mother Earth. One of the examples I use is the Haida case. The Haida case in northern BC is one of the reasons you have consultation and accommodation in the legal process across the country, is because they were to protect the 20% of the old growth forest. And that's how come they went to court. And what they brought to court was the fact that they used the cedar, the roots, to build clothing with, and the plants themselves to build houses and that kind of stuff, and totem poles, and that's the reason the court said, yeah, you do use cedar as part of your traditional lifestyle, and you should have that right. And, like, we've been the sober second thought in terms of development in this country all along. There's no question about it, because we're the only ones that do it. There was no big environmental groups in the Haida case. It was just the Haida that were leading the way. They're the ones that had to foot the bill for that case. And we were doing that all across the country, so we don't underestimate what your rights are. Because what your rights are is really what we're grasping onto in view of what the white governments consider their colonial entitlement. You know what a colonial entitlement for the white man is, for the white government? Their colonial entitlement is to rule over 99.8% of the territory, our land. That's how come they're rich. We're poor because we have 0.2. Consider that a loonie. They get 99.8% of the loonie and we get 0.2% of the loonie. And that's the way it's been clean across the country. Indian chiefs and AFN, the first issue of decolonization is to move from 0.2 to 50% of all our territory across this country. And if you did that, poverty would disappear instantly and the land would be protected, especially of our elders and the people who really believe in the land and want to protect Mother Earth stay in power in the Indian community. But as long as we're on 0.2 and we're fighting over that other percentage of 99.8% based just purely on their politics and their policies, we're never going to get anywhere. That's what you need activists. You need people who will get out on the land. And you need to do that clean across the country. Like they don't have that many police to handle us. Because, you know, like Chief Branch Church, Philip was saying in Luda Stoughton, they had 200 policemen. And I know from Sun Peaks, they want 3 cops per Indian. That's how much they want in BC. So the thing is that if you got a water on 10 camps like that, they wouldn't have enough cops. And if they all come after us, then we can set up some bank robberies somewhere else. Just kidding about that last part. But anyways, I just want to point out Article 29 in UNDRIP, which I think is important to read because it just says that under Article 29 it says Indigenous people have the right to conservation and protection of the environment and the productive capacity of their lands or territories and resources, and states shall establish and establish and implement assistance programs for Indigenous people for such conservation and protection without discrimination. So there's a provision right in there. So I'd say that that's what part of this meeting's about. Anyways, Coach Cam, thank you.